glad that you all are coming in for another episode of Wait, the LSAT's Hard. We officially have reached this whole new level because apparently my grandma has found us on YouTube and she sent me a text and said, wow, you really quite are something. A lot of assumptions with what that means. I think he means that I think that's good, but I also don't know. Like, it's like, why is my granddaughter doing this?
You have your first review.
Yeah, I had my first review. She found me, what is that called? Organically. I'm sure she's not searching me on the internet. Maybe she is. Anyways, I'm really excited because we have another fine lady here today that is studying for the LSAT. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Katie. Yeah, so I'm from Tampa, Florida. I went to the University of Central Florida, which is in Orlando, and I was a double major in history and theater. And so I have always been interested in law, but while living in Orlando, I took advantage of like all the theme parks and all the performance work. So I got to do some really cool theme park performing while I was in
Did you do
Orlando.
it at like Disney World and stuff?
Not Disney,
That would
Universal.
be my dream job.
Yeah, it was pretty great. And I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, so it was
Wait, Katie, can I come to Florida and can we go to Harry Potter World? I've been wanting to go for forever and I've never been. I teach a Harry Potter class. Did you know
do
this?
you really?
Oh yeah,
Wait,
absolutely.
what house are you? Wait, can I guess?
Yeah,
Are you a Ravenclaw?
I I I think I'm a Gryffindor, but I think I could come across as a Ravenclaw for sure.
Okay.
I think I have too much feeling involved, but yeah, here I'll go ahead and put my Harry Potter background that I use for my Harry Potter class. This is what my
Yes.
students love. They get all excited. So here you
Oh my
go.
gosh. So cute. Yes. Yeah, so I got to uh going to school in Orlando was great. I got to do some really cool performance things. But I don't know. I didn't realize like while performing how many interactions I ended up having with kind of the legal side of performance, whether that was NDAs or different contracts or
I
different
don't
like
know what an
consequences,
NDA is.
non-disclosure agreements.
Oh,
So
non-disclosure. Okay.
yeah, so like when they're working on new projects, you can't say this, don't leak this, because obviously
Okay, that
there's
makes sense.
mm-hmm.
So why have you then transitioned from working in were you working in theater just through college or was this after college?
This was all throughout college, and then when I graduated, I still liked it, but with I just had other interests, and I was really struggling to figure out how to kind of combine. I was a history major. I loved research. I loved writing. I loved that aspect and like that academic aspect along with performance, and so I transitioned after college. I was still performing a little bit, but I moved more into like arts education, and so I was able to combine sort of those two fields. And then my aunt's a paralegal, and she was like, Katie, just take a paralegal class, just try it, take like sign up for a law class just to see, because I was kind of at a point where I think I could be doing more. Like I want to do something that's more research oriented and more academic, and I took a Emory with the pandemic and everything. I think one of the highlights is that all of these different organizations are now offering online classes to try out that maybe I wouldn't have been able to geographically before. And so Emory has a paralegal program, so I took a class. It was a civil litigation class, and I don't know, everything just clicked. I found myself loving the content. I loved writing briefs. I loved like nerding out over weird laws, and that really motivated me to want to take the LSAT so that law school could be an option. And after that, I tried to find work at a law office to kind of see what that would look like, and all of the research I've done working at a law office and studying for the LSAT has just kind of reaffirmed that decision that I do want to go to law school and that I do see myself working in law. So it's been kind of like a circular journey.
while it's been circular, it's been really intentional in the fact that you haven't jumped into anything. You've actually taken, hey, let me try this and see if I really like it. Okay, I'm going to study for the LSAT. Which then when did you start studying for the LSAT?
So I first like downloaded the Powerscore study schedule in June, but I feel like I didn't start intensely studying for the LSAT until I would say July. That's when I really buckled down and felt that I am going to take it. I'm going to take it in November. I am signed up. It is happening. Like, I need structure.
What
So, like 3-4-ish months.
what did your study schedule look like during that time?
So, once I started buckling down, I tried to take one practice test a week. And then I would usually try to study like 2 hours a day. So, I started with the Powerscore book. So, I started with logic games. And then from there,
So would you just read a couple chapters a day or?
so I would read. So I bought the Powerscore trilogy, and they have the workbooks, and so I would like read, and then they would have different exercises that you would do, and then from there I would also like seek out different practice test games. I got the LSAC Prep Plus, so with all the practice tests.
Anybody that's starting out, I'm just going to put this plug in here as much as I am not a large fan of LSAC. Go ahead, if there's one investment that you can make, it's go ahead and spend I think it's $100 to get all of the LSAC tests online, because it's the platform you take the test on, and then you have access to all the tests, and it just makes everything easier.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's definitely like the number one investment that I think
Do
was
it
the
first.
best.
Yeah, I tell people, like, rip off the band-aid and just do it, because you're going to have to eventually, so you might as well get the most out of them.
And I think especially now that, because to my knowledge, there's no more paper tests, like unless accommodations.
And that's for accommodation. Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's the same. Even if you would take it in person, because I took it in person, but it wasn't Flex, and it was that program. Like, they give you the iPads and stuff, and it was that same program, so it was great practice.
No, absolutely. So I would go through the workbooks. I would use different, if I wasn't going to do a full practice test, I would maybe say, okay, I'm reading about logic games. Let me do the logic games from this section. And then from there, I would seek out explanation videos for what I was doing wrong.
Where would you seek out the videos at?
I would just go on to YouTube. I think
Seven Sage used to have them for free.
I think that's what it is. I mean, I think they're all removed now, so I'm not sure what specific videos I did, but that was kind of my schedule, because Logic Games was on the original punch list. Yeah.
You did Logic Games. So were you just studying Logic Games for a whole month then, or?
No, I started with that because I felt when I did my diagnostic test, that was the one where I just had no idea what to do, and so I was like, well, might as well start with
the weekend. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
How did you introduce the next topic then?
So I followed the Powerscore study plan in the beginning, like pretty rigidly. So I followed their structure and what chapters they said to read and what.
Is this online?
Yeah, they have like basically how far along and how many months you have until the test. They have different breakdowns. So I started with logic games, and then from there followed just their structure. So I think they go really heavy with LR in the beginning, and then a little bit of reading comp, because I think they're designing the study schedule with the idea that you're going to have 2 sections of LR, which is why it's so heavy, I think, in the beginning, because they're trying to have you start with that first.
Absolutely. So did you finish all 3 of these books?
No, I made it through. I just found that I am not someone who's.
And real quick, for anybody that is watching the video, it looks like on Powerscore they actually have like 1 month study plan, 1.5. So I'm guessing Kate did like the 4 or 6 month plan.
Yeah.
If you click on it, it looks like they actually. Oh, they even have a table of contents. Whoa! I need to up my game.
For a beginner, like for someone who's kind of brand spanking new to studying and doesn't have a great plan, I think this was a good jumping off point. I found that the books were not necessarily like conducive to my style of learning, and so I kind of hit a wall where the books were getting really dense, and I feel like I was getting frustrated because I wasn't enjoying the studying process. So I kind of reached a wall with it, but it was wonderful in the beginning just to kind of get me started.
Oh, I agree 100%. Like, I think books are good to pair with. You have to have some type of instruction, though. Like, there has to be more than a book. And I don't love that they were doing all three at the same time if you have longer than
Right.
3 months. Because I just think, like, trying to learn three different concepts at once is very difficult.
If I could go back, I definitely would have. I would have like segmented it a bit more to only focus on one, because I think they are so
Especially
transferable.
LR.
Yes.
Everyone wants to dive into games first, which I mean, I think I did that when I was studying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's when I did the weakest on, but then I did the worst on. But then it's like the most fun to learn and it's fun to do and it's puzzles. So like I tell people, like, you can do LR and you can kind of do games, but really put a lot of your energy those first couple weeks into LR and get a sound structure, because
Mhm.
it's only going, because you have to like just exposure. You need exposure to LR to get better. It doesn't happen overnight. Where I think games, like, you can kind of power through and get good at them, where
Mhm.
LR doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, and I found that studying LR has also helped me with reading comps. So I feel like if I had maybe spent so much time in the beginning only focusing on LR before trying to mix the three, that maybe would have helped me more going into reading comp as opposed to just smushing them all together. But I was grateful for kind of the like early foundation. But after using Powerscore, I was like, I need video explanations. Like, I just can't read. I need something that's a little more interactive. And so I bought LSAT Max. And while I appreciate,
How much is LSAT Max?
I'm like afraid to say, I
No,
think
I think that you might be like four students that has bought LSAT Max. Their marketing, I should go apply for their marketing team.
great
They're great
marketing.
marketing, great marketing.
And they're so pervasive. I feel like every time I watch any video on YouTube, LSAT Max is
I know. I'm
like,
like, oh, I'm watching this video, like the news, LSAT Max, LSAT, and I'm like, I'm done with the LSAT. They're like, yeah, but you Google it a lot.
we think you could use it. So I think it was like $1,000.
No, I
It's a
think it is. I think I remember when I did it, I had quit my job and I asked my mom to like pay for half of it and I could like pay her back. And I remember like paying her back and I wasn't even using it anymore.
Mhm. I enjoyed it a lot in the beginning, and I just hit another wall where I wasn't getting better, but um I just I liked it because I liked that they had the different question types, so it was good for drilling. And I think that was the first time I was really drilling question types, which I wasn't drilling as much as I should have because I think the lure of taking practice tests and seeing and like comparing your scores is was just too tempting for me. And so I didn't drill
And then
as
you meet
much as
people
I
who are
should.
like me, and I'm like, oh, I never took practice tests. So don't take, like, what's the point of practice tests?
Right. Now looking back, I can't believe I just wasted all of those recent practice tests because I would love to kind of have waited and have them have spread like a fresh set of eyes going into it as opposed to I took it before I knew anything and I essentially like wasted that practice test.
You know, you're an
But
LSAT nerd when you're talking about
I
wasting.
know, I know.
I wasted a test.
Because I think when you first get it, you're like, there's so many practice tests. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of practice tests. Like all the new ones are gone.
Oh, that's such a great question. I'm just that's a, so what do you wish you knew then while you were starting out?
I wish that I wish if like present Katie could go back to past Katie, I would have said from the beginning, like talk to a tutor, like talk to an objective party and just get a schedule or get some sort of plan. Because I think I walked into it, I did some Googling, I watched YouTube videos of people who were studying to kind of see common threads and resources. And while I'm grateful for the Powerscore books, I think I wasn't honest with myself about what kind of study methods work. And so I think if I had been more honest with myself that reading a book and only using a book is not going to be the best tool for me, I think I would have maybe been more open to seeking out more live classes or to maybe looking into tutoring early to get on a different path. So that I would also say less practice tests, more drilling, less practice tests.
So after you used LSAT Max, did you use any other resources after that?
I bought the loophole and I read about half of the loophole and I really liked it. But it wasn't until I think after doing that, I was at the point where I need to interact with people. I need to have interact with people, have someone kind of break down what I'm talking about with answer choices. And so I did a live LSAT class and then I attended, I want to say it was Nicole's necessary assumption class. And I think that was the LSAT class that really clicked for me because she lets everyone explain what their wrong answers are and kind of say the reason why. And I think just hearing people explain their thought process was what finally made things click. And it was helpful in having myself recognize like errors in my thinking, which was finally what I needed. I felt that it finally clicked the style of learning that I needed in order to reach my goals in the next level and to kind of get out of this plateau that I was in.
There's research that shows like you're more likely to remember mistakes that you've made previously, like if you've had to defend it or you've had it explained to you, even by somebody else. Where I mean, that's why we go to class. That's why we don't have, K through 12 always online, I should say, is because there is benefit to having interaction.
Yeah.
So so what was your diagnostic score? And
my diagnostic score. Okay, so my diagnostic score was, I think it was a 148. And now I'm testing like in the early mid 60s, 160s.
Okay, and how has your LR improved?
Oh, my LR has improved vastly. When I came to Nicole, I was like, I miss 7 on LR. That's just what I do. I miss 7. It doesn't matter what type, I just miss 7. And I think I kind of let myself settle for that and to kind of say, I'm not going to get any better. Like, this is kind of my peak. And I don't think that that's true. I think that it was just readjusting my studying mentality.
So, yeah, like what, because it's not just me, like what adjustments did you make that allowed you, because her last like 3 LR scores have been -3, which is amazing. And that's consistently -3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of people would kill for a -3 on an LR section.
Yeah, I'm still in shock. I think it's identifying patterns, and I don't want to like tell all of Nicole's secrets, but
tell all.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure how like secret I had to be. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. You tell all my secrets.
Okay, great. All the secrets. So, Nicole has given me like a lot of really great tools that I think have helped my confidence with LR and have helped me feel more equipped to look at a question and know how to handle it, as opposed to reading it and just kind of saying, okay, what makes the most sense to me? For example, your top-down approach, whether you need to get all of your answer needs to come directly from the stimulus without adding any additional information, or answers that you get to be a little more creative on, or stronger or weaker answers.
Which is really helpful for people like Katie and myself that tend to be more right-brained or more creative. I'm guessing because you're in theater.
Yes.
Like we like to know how far we can like push the boundaries. And so once I have those boundaries on the LSAT, like I love strengthen and weaken questions. I love sufficient assumption questions. I love paradox questions because I get to think outside the box.
Yeah, and I think having tools going into it helped me feel more confident and helped me have more of a strategy in approaching it. Like, I think having different tools and having different parameters to think through when looking at LR questions, such as, okay, this is a strength and weaken question. That means I'm looking for a strong answer choice and I'm able to bring in outside information. It almost made it more like logic games, in that there were specific parameters to follow. Yeah, it's more of a puzzle, and I think it made it more interactive and more energetic. And also another thing is learning the vocabulary of the LSAT. So some, many, most, what do those mean, and how can you adjust that to help you pick your answer choice. Like with
Some
some
just
meaning.
memorize, like I don't believe in memorizing everything by any means, but there's like 10 words that like you have to know,
Mm-hmm.
which I think you would vouch for that. Like I'm not a big
Oh
like note
yeah.
taker. Like, oh, you have to come and take a bunch of notes. Like I think some people say it's all about writing notes. Maybe that's true. I don't want to say it's not true, but I am not that big on note taking.
No, you're not. But I think even the simplest thing of just some is just at least one. Because that changes the way you read it. I think when you
It
read some
does.
so vague, and then if you know it's at least one, I think that allows you to have a different lens when you're reading it, and it's just changed the way I go into LR. And also getting better at predicting and getting in the habit of I
Yeah, tell
read.
us a little bit more about that. Tell us about how you approach a question and what you've gotten better at, because I think I know what direction you're going.
Okay. So when I look at an LR question, I read the question first. Well, I read the stimulus first. I don't look at the question. I've had to like break myself of that habit, but I'm so happy that I'm starting because I am seeing improvements because of that. Because I think just reading the stimulus forces you to pay more attention to what's happening in the stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going in with a game plan yet. I'm just focusing on understanding everything I can about the stimulus and really sitting on sentences and paraphrasing as I go to make sure I really understand what's happening. And then after I finish reading the stimulus, I really like, if it is an argument, highlighting the conclusion and making sure I understand what the conclusion is, as well as kind of taking stock of the format of
The
the argument.
reasoning.
Yes. And then from there, reading the question, going through my little toolbox of what kind of question it is, what sort of parameters are we dealing with, and then predicting.
So if it's a
And
weekend question, what do you do?
so if it's a weekend question, I go back to the conclusion and I say, okay, we're looking for something that either introduces a new, like, alternative evidence that would make this conclusion not be the reason, or just completely destroys the conclusion. Like, there's no way that this works for a multitude of different reasons.
And you'll
And then, so predict.
oh, sorry, predict. Perfect. You're doing great.
Okay, good. Okay. Predict and then go through, and I'm looking for a strong answer choice. So even like having those parameters in my head, I now feel more equipped and that I'm not walking in blind. I'm walking in like a little detective looking for certain things.
Right. So, like
And
for example, the example I always give is if it's hot outside, therefore we should get ice cream. If that was it, you would be like, okay, the conclusion is it's hot outside, or we should get ice cream. The premise is it's hot outside. And if the question was to weaken it, what would you predict or how would you weaken it?
I would look for reasons we shouldn't get ice cream, like all of us are lactose intolerant. Or
All 100%.
yes, or the ice cream shop is 100 miles away. Like as crazy of kind of things that would ruin it, and just get creative and just think about as many weaknesses as possible and predict as many answers as possible. So then I'm going in with I think an arsenal and some strategy.
Yes.
And then yeah, and then most of the time the answer is usually there. Or if it's not there, then looking to eliminate wrong answer choices, getting it down to those two, and then
Have you noticed a big difference between I never until I started tutoring, I didn't realize how many times I got to the wrong answer by crossing off all the wrong, or I got to the right answer by crossing off the wrong answers. Has your attitude towards that changed at all?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's helped me go faster.
Oh yeah, talk about okay, so there's two like amazing topics here. One of them is did you slow down to get faster?
Yes.
Like explain that. Like I tell people this all the time. They're like, my problem speed, my problem speed, my problem speed. And I tell them, okay, but if you're gonna come work with me, you're gonna have to get slower to get faster. And so can you explain like why you got slower, but now how you're faster?
Yeah, so I I'm not going to say that like speed was never an issue with LR, but for the most part I was able to get to all the questions. Maybe there was like one or two that I wasn't, that I had to guess on, but for the most part I was able to like confidently finish an LR in the 35 minutes. And but my accuracy was kind of all over the place. I would miss some in the beginning, I would
But
miss a good amount in
just
the
for people
middle.
watching it, her finishing in a section is not the norm. Like most people, even with bad accuracy, don't get to all 25 questions. Just FYI. But anyways, go on, Katie.
But
I don't want people to feel bad and be like, oh, well, she could do it. So like she was capable of it. Like it's not a fair comparison.
no, and also my accuracy wasn't great, so it doesn't really matter at that
Right.
point.
Yeah. Like you're better. I told people you're better. Like if you are only getting 15 out of 25, well, you're better off like only answering 18 questions and getting 16 than getting to all 25.
No, absolutely. And so I was like finishing or getting close to finishing, but my accuracy was all over the place. And I remember one of the first like sessions I had with Nicole, we looked at my wrong answers and she's like, the fact that you're missing this many in the first 15 tells me you need to slow down. And I think from then on out, I was really like, okay, I need to sit on sentences. I need to read. Even if I think I know what's going on in the stimulus, I'm not paying enough attention to the conclusion and how everything relates to the conclusion. And I think forcing myself to slow down, even though it was frustrating, I think the first few LR sections after I really became conscientious, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. Like battling that fear, but then my accuracy was going. So I think
I was like, yeah, but you're getting the same number correct with answering less questions.
right. And now I feel confident about those instead of just blowing through and making silly mistakes. So
You feel like
yeah.
you're reading also like because you forced yourself to become like honestly, you forced yourself to become a better reader. You've said,
Yeah.
what? I'm not going to worry about time. I'm going to become a better reader. And has your reading skills truly improved?
Oh yeah, and I'm even seeing
It
that
happens.
that's transferable in RC as well. I think forcing myself to read and predict and paraphrase and
It's
really sit on
hard work.
sentences.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I tell people, it's such simple things, but it's really hard work.
And I think especially coming from, I was a history major. I had to do so much like reading analysis, and I think that the LSAT and the reading and the level of detail that's required for this, even if you were like an arts and humanities major and you feel like you are great at reading, I think that I walked into it overconfident in my reading, and because of that, I was making silly mistakes or I was reading and not really sitting on things to
Katie misses
understand.
not a lot.
What?
Katie misses the word not a lot.
Oh yeah, which is silly. Like that's, I just had to look. If you look, it's there.
One mistake like you've made that other people have made too is like when you're doing strengthen and weakening questions, like you do great on like crossing off the first two, but then by the time we get to like answer choice C or D, we forget that like we're weakening the thing that we disagree with. So really we're agreeing with the original opinion. Or details like that, and then just taking the extra 8 seconds to remind yourself, what are we actually weakening? Because they're written in a way for our brain to not remember all of that. And so we have to slow down and like actually ask ourselves, okay, what's the conclusion? What am I weakening? What's the conclusion? What am I weakening?
Right. You have a great quote of like, look at it, find the answer through the eyes of the conclusion. And it's so
conclusion.
Don't get distracted by the other things. It's all about the conclusion.
So what would be your like top piece of advice for someone studying for the LSAT?
I would say to be really honest with yourself about what type of student you are and what type of learner you are. And if something's not working, don't be afraid to like reassess and maybe think about, okay, what is this not giving me? What do I need? And I think the open, I'm so sorry. My dog's really excited.
I love the authenticity of it.
Yes. So yeah, I think being honest with yourself about your studying. Also, I'm so happy that I joined the LSAT Facebook group, but I do think it's important to kind of realize that everyone's on their own journey and that a lot of people post the good things, but not everyone's posting when they're frustrated or when they're not scoring the way they want to score. And
maybe I'm gonna go post on the Facebook group. How many times have you? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna post a poll. How many times have you cried from studying have you cried because of studying for the LSAT?
Right. That'd be a great poll. But I think that not getting frustrated and also to just let things marinate. I think that you can't always expect to see progress right away, and that's okay. I feel like some of the things that Nicole has taught me have maybe taken 2 weeks to really like sitting and marinating. And now when I go into LR, I feel so much more confident, and they're just becoming instinct, which is great. And I think that being patient with yourself would be like my biggest piece of advice.
Oh, I like that a lot. And then lastly, like, how do you stay motivated? Because I think like a lot of us lose our energy on this journey, and we kind of like, I don't want to, like, I don't want to study today. Big picture, how do we stay motivated? And then like day to day, how do you stay motivated?
Yeah, so I definitely, um, regardless of what I'm doing, I always try to find, like, I love doing the logic game, so I'll always try to do at least one for whatever study session. If I'm feeling frustrated, I'll like throw in a logic game because that's fun. But I also think that embracing the LSAT community, I think studying with people to keep you accountable, but also to just keep you sane and to feel a sense of community. I think especially now because of the pandemic and being by yourself, um, it's hard sometimes, but I think finding those communities and talking with people, talking with other people that are going through the same thing, and really like letting yourself feel the support from your peers that are also taking it.
Do you study with people?
Yes, I do. And I think that that has been the biggest game changer in my studying. Um, yeah, I think just talking about answers or hearing it out loud or bouncing ideas off and hearing different people's thought process when it comes to questions is so valuable, and has really not only, I think, helped me understand and get better at the LSAT, but has also made it more enjoyable because you're doing it with people and it's more of a social experience. And so it energizes you, I think, as well. And it forces you to be accountable for your answer choices and defend your answer choices, which I think is really important.
Oh, no, and that's how you get confidence on this test. Oh, that's a whole nother video. So, was there any big waste of money that you've spent studying for the LSAT?
Um,
Or
I,
what do you regret?
I, oh my gosh, I don't want to like get sued by LSAT. I don't want them coming for me. I feel as though all those
CASPs, those are a waste of money. I agree.
yes, yes. I don't want to say anything was a waste of money because everything has value in some way. But I do wish that after getting frustrated with reading books and learning just based on books, that I'd maybe done a little more research into what other options were out there as opposed to just jumping on the most popular and well marketed options.
Excellent. But those are hard to find.
Yeah,
Why we
absolutely.
all fall into the trap.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so lastly, we can just wrap it up with, can you share where you're looking at going to school and what kind of attorney you would like to be?
Yeah, so I, as a Florida native, I'm definitely primarily looking at the Florida schools. So I live in Tampa, so obviously Stetson would be great to kind of stay in the home city, but FSU, UF, and then I love Georgia, so UGA and GSU, and I am interested in entertainment law as well as employment law, but I'm open to other types as well. But walking in, that's kind of where most of my interest lies because that's kind of what got me interested in law in the first place.
Awesome. All right, well, any last words before we end our video?
Thanks for having me, Nicole.
I know, welcome to my show.
Yeah.
Katie.
How's Della? How's Della? What's she doing?
Oh yeah. She's like, Mom, it's Saturday night. Why are you not hanging out with me? Which is, side note, you should all follow. Katie follows my dog on Instagram, Della the
I
Dude.
do. Follow Della. What is her account name?
DELA, so Della the Doodle. All right.
Great content.
I'll put it in the, what do they say? I'll put it in the caption. I'll put it in the caption.
Yes.